Many sporting clubs have an unsung hero, or in our case, heroine, behind the scenes, and for the few scraps that remain of the earliest Preston Cricket Club, we extend our thanks to Miss Emily Dodds of East Brunswick. Miss Dodds passed away at a Brunswick home in 1941 at 78 years of age, and discovered amongst her possessions was a complete set from October 1, 1858 to September 28, 1861 of the district's first local newspaper, the Brunswick and Pentridge Press, just the second suburban newspaper to be published in Melbourne. From this, we can verify the presence of a Preston cricket team in 1860, playing 3 matches against Phillipstown, an area off Sydney Road in Brunswick. Whether the Preston of that time constituted a club within a formal structure is unknown. More probably, players were drawn from a group of like-minded cricket enthusiasts, possibly from patrons of the hotel itself, although one of the reports refers to the captain as a mere schoolboy. There appears to have been a more active club in the late 1860s, but it was the acquisition of 9 1/4 acres at what became Preston and Gowerville Park in May 1875 that saw a regular procession of clubs carrying the Preston, or in one instance, Gowerville name in some form or another. The first move to establish today's Preston Cricket Club came when correspondence from Mr. Fred Strahl was tabled at a council meeting on September 16, 1901. The letter requesting the use of the Shire Hall Committee Room for the purpose of holding a meeting to arrange for the formation of a Preston District Cricket Club to enter the Melbourne Sports Depot competition. Strahl pressed home his advantage at the following meeting by requesting that the grass be cut and sheep allowed to graze on the park if necessary. This was fairly common practice long before the days of curators and groundsmen, designed to keep the grass at a manageable length, but perhaps with the drawback of residual leftovers discouraging fieldsmen from sliding after the ball. The first president of the new club was Jack Ralph. 3 vice presidents were named, Councillor John Newton, along with tanners William Braithwaite and William Zwar, with Strahl as secretary. Despite the announcement by the leader newspaper of a representative Preston Cricket Club, the actual name adopted for the first season was almost that of a previous club, and the new team played as Preston District. There is no later indication of a name change being adopted at any annual meeting. The suffix appears to have just disappeared through lack of usage, and perhaps even today Preston District may be the official name of the club. The 1903-04 season saw a substantial and long overdue reorganisation of junior cricket in Melbourne with the formation of the Victorian Junior Cricket Association and the end of most of the privately sponsored trophy competitions. Most of the first grade clubs in the Melbourne Sports Depot competition made the transition to the new association, again in first grade. Up until the start of the 1907-08 season, Preston shared the playing area at Kramer Street with long-standing fellow occupants, All Saints, but after some highly controversial manoeuvring, some may describe it as political bastardry, Preston gained sole access to the park, with All Saints having to resort to a makeshift ground behind their church in Murray Road. Sole occupancy probably helped in terms of practice facilities, but more directly responsible for a vast improvement in 1907-08 was the return as captain and coach of former Gowerville and Preston player James Patterson, after a long career with Coburg, where he was credited with taking over 550 wickets, and as a representative player with the Junior Association in matches against touring English sides. His younger brother Tom also returned after many seasons with Coburg and Northcote, the pair instrumental in seeing Preston finishing 3rd behind the most invincible South Melbourne footballers, again premiers. The 1908-09 season, also the first year of the sub-districts, saw the establishment of a Preston second 11 playing matches virtually every week and adopting the name Preston Amateurs. These were arranged matches against other clubs without a regular fixture. It appears that Preston, for the first time, was seriously looking at a second 11 as a means of developing young cricketers to a first 11 standard, rather than a social hit and giggle for non-playing members. 1914 was to prove something of a watershed year that saw the club established on a significantly sounder basis than in previous seasons. Pre-season 1914 also saw the establishment of the second 11 in an organised competition for the first time. The season, however, was overshadowed by the outbreak of hostilities in what became known as the Great War, with many clubs struggling to retain teams as men rushed to volunteer. Sadly, there does not seem to have been an attempt to maintain an honour roll of players or members at Preston that served, and there seems to have been little overall impact. Preston's entry into sub-district ranks came in 1922, but there is some evidence that the club believed that an application to join the senior competition may have been successful the previous year. The Preston Shire Council agreed to a recommendation of its Parks Committee for the laying of a turf wicket in March 1921 at an estimated cost of £40 as a prerequisite to the club gaining access to sub-district ranks. Amenities at Kramer Street took a giant step forward, with the old wooden pavilion of 1880 replaced with the southern end of today's grandstand. The building was officially opened on the 12th of December 1925 by the new mayor, Councillor Llewellyn Jones. The opening of the stand proved opportune. The park hosted around 6,000 people on the afternoon of Wednesday the 14th of July 1926, when the proclamation of Preston as a city was performed by His Excellency, the Governor, Lord Somers. Without much doubt, 1928-29 was the worst in Preston's history, the club failing to register a single premiership point at either the first or second level. Not even the weather helped. In most seasons, one or more draws bringing 1 point could be expected, but there was not a single day washed out. The situation changed dramatically prior to the 1929 season, when Preston managed to secure the services of long-standing Northcote captain Bill Woodbury as coach. In round 3, Woodbury made history and perhaps the club's finest all-round match figures, taking 6 for 62 in Malvern's 238 and then posting 100 not out to become Preston's first centurion, reportedly on the second last ball of the second day's play. Sadly, a lack of support from the remaining batsmen left Preston on 6 for 218, the match fizzling out to a tame draw with only the interest as to whether Woodbury would reach the ton. In the 1939-40 season, the second 11 had the benefit of a few experienced players and finished on top of the ladder with 29 points. They were drawn against Camberwell in their semi-final and in a one-sided affair dismissed the opposition for 123 and then ran up a total of 8 for 332, leading to an outright victory. In conditions at Brighton described as deplorable, Preston in the final were dismissed for just 95, but still a glimmer of hope, with Coburg struggling at 5 for 47 at one stage, though recovering to 6 for 102 at stumps. In slightly better conditions, Coburg went on to 135, a handy 40-run lead, but Preston responded with 194, and at the end of the second day, with the match to be played to conclusion, Coburg were 9 for 117, needing 38 for an unlikely win. With the Coburg captain Ross still at the crease the following Saturday, must have been a few hearts in mouths, as he and the number 11 carried the score to 141 before Carter went for 7, finally leaving the Preston Cricket Club with a win by 14 runs to claim the first premiership for the club. The brief summary of the early years of the club is made of excerpts from Brain Membrey's Preston Cricket Club, an early history. Sincerest thanks go to Brian for his wonderful work collecting and writing such a comprehensive history of the club. The complete history, along with Brian's history of Preston and Gowville Park, will be made available on the club's website in the near future.